show with myself, Farah. And first of all, before I start, a little prayer. Uh, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. And it means, I begin in the name of the most merciful, the most beneficent, my Lord. Expand for me my breast and ease for me my task, and untie the knot from my tongue that they may understand my speech. And my guest this morning, my first guest this morning is Alex Wera Sakera. So I'd like to welcome Alex Wera Sakera to the studio. You're tuned into Radio Ramadan, of course, on 87.9 FM. Thank you so much, Alex, for joining us this morning. It's a pleasure to have you with us. And Alex believes that she is the founder of the Healthy Girl online store for wellness, which she has actually recently sold. But Alex believes that when we restore our bodies to function in the way which were intended, our life force within can then become our human experience. And we thrive in a life from heightened mental, physical, and spiritual health like never before. And Alex is actually a qualified nutritional therapist. She's a personal trainer. She has studied holistic psychotherapy and is a member of the International Institute for Complementary Therapies. So welcome, Alex.
Thank you, Farah. Thank you so much. It's an absolute pleasure and delight to be here. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure to have you with us, Alex, on this bright, beautiful and sunny Thursday morning. So health and well-being, it's something that's always important at any point in our lives, but particularly I would say at this moment in time, with circumstances as they have been. Now, from what I understand, if we were to look at statistics, about 96% of illnesses are actually caused by stress, aren't they, Alex?
Yes, they are, absolutely, and it's a frightening statistic when you think about it. Because I think virtually every single one of us is experiencing some form of stress, whether consciously or unconsciously. I think pretty much every day. Modern living is it is stressful. Whether we think we are under the effects of stress or not. I think just trying to deal with what we have to deal with on a daily basis, whether that's busy families, busy work, juggling a lot of things, along with pressure to succeed and to, achieve what we want to achieve. I think we're all having to deal with stress. Add to that, obviously, what's been going on in the world over the past year, and I think you can see the effects that it can be having on people. To me, I think it's really a good idea to actually ask yourself, or consider what is real health, because for everybody it could be something different. But because I think we're almost conditioned through society, and particularly as we age, to maybe accept that at certain times of our life that we should accept certain types of a deterioration in our health, and we can, that's something that we're told to accept. But personally, I would like to think that, great health, real health is having a vitality and an energy and a, sort of drive for life and, an enjoyment, enough energy to enjoy what we want to do. So it's having an enhanced quality of life. And I think it's really important to decide or look at how a person wants to really be, health-wise. I was thinking about this actually this morning before, while getting ready to come on today. And I'm someone that, very sadly, I've had to experience, very close family members go through some very serious health issues. My mum, thankfully, has come through. Unfortunately, we lost my dad about 7 years ago. So I've spent a lot of time in hospitals over the years, and I've seen the quality of life that some people seem to have to endure. Because modern medicine allows us to potentially live longer, but it's at what cost? In terms of what cost of the quality do we have to give up? Yes. So I do feel I'm totally into a natural approach, a preventative approach, and treating the body, the mind, the soul as one. As a holistic approach, because I think they're all so intrinsically linked, and it really, as I was saying at the beginning, stress can be conscious or unconscious. If it's unconscious, we're not going to be so aware of it, but it can be having effects on our body nonetheless. And there are stresses that we are very clearly aware of, and that would be, major events, or we would know if our, physically our body is feeling the effects of stress, whether that's, because our emotions have really kicked in as a reaction. So I think it's really important to look at finding some balance in our life, finding some perspective, and then also taking specific steps that we can take, which can be really quite easy to implement, in order to have quite a profound impact on how we feel.
Well, I completely agree with you. It's important to have a balance. It's very important. They do say, and there's so much truth in this saying, that prevention is better than cure. And if your food, if the kind of food that you're eating is healthy and nutritious, then really your food is your medicine. You won't need to, then resort to medication, as it were. So thank you for what you said, because it's very, very true. And but also the mind actually is one of the most powerful tools that we have. It governs our entire system, our body. It governs the way that we think, and the way that we think then impacts our body. So why is having the right mindset important then, Alex?
Well, if you think about it, let me just ask you this, or ask the listeners to just play along with this. If I say to you, what you think affects how you feel, and you can experience that instantly. So if I say to you, okay, can you think of something that makes you happy? Think of a memory, or think of someone that makes you happy. And when you do that, so you start smiling, I start smiling because I'm thinking of something too. Immediately you have a different response of your emotions in the body. You feel happy. Now, if I said, think of something that makes you feel sad, you're going to have a different response again. So come back to the happy feeling, because I'd much rather people were left feeling happy. But that's just a very quick example of how what we think will affect us physically. So the more that we are focusing on what we do want, focusing on things that we have achieved in our life, or the good things, looking for the good in our lives, looking for the good in other people, and trying to not get too caught up in things that might be challenges. And I totally understand that if someone is not feeling 100%, that can be more tricky, that can be more difficult to do. But I think it's having a bit of a discipline, or creating a little bit of discipline around how we think, and coming to understand the way that the mind works. Because whether you've come across the law of attraction, whether you've come across personal development, whether different readings, even I'm sure, I think we've had conversations before, Farah, and I think there are parts in the Quran which would talk about this. There are I know that from my background as a Christian, there are parts where Jesus would talk about this. I know my husband was brought up a Buddhist. There are the Buddha would speak about what we think we become. And so we do have a power to change our reality and our results, and it's our thinking which will affect that completely. So it's also known in medicine that very often the vast majority of results, or if a doctor gives a person a diagnosis or a certain amount of time that they might have left, 99% of the time that's what happens. The power of the placebo, as in what we tell ourselves or what someone else tells ourselves, we absorb that. The unconscious mind absorbs that, and it becomes really a self-fulfilling prophecy. But so I think we have to be really careful what we're willing to take on and what we're willing to believe. So it's not to say you discount that you might have something to deal with and you take appropriate action, but it's to maybe not allow ourselves to get overwhelmed with the emotions and feeling upset and feeling sorry for ourselves, because I think if we feel empowered, we have so many more resources available to us, which will impact us physically and will impact us, our health going forward.
Okay, well, thank you for that answer, but it's very, very comprehensive, and it does it does explain a lot. So, what would you say when it comes to health? How much would you say that people generally actually value their health?
That's a very good question, Farah. I think, I think that's such a personal thing, and I really think there are two types of people out there in general. And I'm basing this on my personal experience, because I probably was in one camp and now I'm very definitely in another. And I think, it can be very easy to sort of merrily make our way through life. And as I said earlier, expect at a certain time of our life that certain things happen to us physically. And at a certain time, almost wait until, we're at that point where we start to say, okay, well, maybe I need to fix something. And, what happens as we age is we actually, over a period of our lifetime, we manage to clog our bodies. We clog our bodies with the foods that we eat and with the thoughts that we think. And we very often, that clogging is then manifests in various different illnesses, which medical science gives us names. So personally, having experienced, my father, my mother, and looking around at other people, this was in my 30s really when that really started. I realized that, there is a different way. As you said earlier, Hippocrates said, let food be thy medicine. But we have to make sure that we're eating the right types of foods. Not all foods are created equal. But if we can eat foods which are closest to nature, it makes sense that will allow our body to be in the best form that nature intends. And then you move into the realm of going down the route of prevention. And what you can do, depending on how far someone wants to go, you can go down the route of almost trying to reverse what you may have done up to that point to clog your system. Most bodies will be clogged with a mixture of cholesterol and inorganic minerals, which very often generally comes from our drinking water. So it is a question of really knowing what or learning or understanding or finding out the truth about nutrition, because it is a minefield. There's a lot of misinformation out there. But if you think, how can I unclog? How can I cleanse my body? How can I allow it to function more effectively? How can I put, the right kind of foods in it that will, support that? So I think it's either, people are either waiting, and it's not quite in denial, but they are, not necessarily don't have a less awareness, or less, it's probably less awareness of what might happen. Because when we're younger, we feel well. So we don't feel that there's anything necessarily we might need to do.
So people take it for granted, really, don't they? I guess to a certain degree, you know, and as much as we know how harmful or good, not good for us, certain things are. For example, sugar is a big one, and people say, "Oh, well, I'm just having, and I'll just have this one slice of cake, and I'm just having this, you know, it's not gonna, you know." And before you know it, these things add up, don't they? You know.
Well, that's my point. Absolutely, that's exactly it. You know,
exactly.
So it's over a lifetime, and you know, it's how many times do we say, well, you know, it's only once. You know, it isn't ever really only once. But you know, I think it is a case of having a bit of moderation. If you can create some balance, and you know, follow the sort of 80-20 rule. You know, 80% of the time you're pretty, you know, balanced, on track, and then you know that allows you to have some downtime, or you know, enjoy the things you want to. But there are ways of maybe enjoying those things, but in healthier ways as well. Everything can kind of, recipes can be, you know, enhanced or hacked, and you know, there's ways of making things, you know, that little bit healthier as well.
Of course. So I know you kind of touched upon this earlier on, but how does stress show up for people then in their life?
Well, I mean, I think it shows up physically, and it shows up mentally and emotionally. And I think, you know, that there are so many different ways. It, you know, it could, as I say, it could be something that, you know, people start to experience just less resilience, less, it will impact our immune system. So it will reduce the immune system. And obviously at this time, particularly with COVID, our immune system is our only form of defense. That really is our only form of defense for any illness. But, you know, it's even more important now that we have that really supported. But stress unfortunately will impact our immune system and reduce it. When stress occurs in the body, it releases hormones, something called cortisol, which comes from the adrenal glands, and that will impact other hormones. If we eat sugar, that will affect hormones as well and cause, you know, more of an impact. It can affect our weight. It can affect our energy. We can just, you know, you just get extra tired, and you maybe don't really understand why. You know, all the way through to people, you know, experiencing anxiety and, you know, panic attacks. There's all manner, and there's all range and degrees of it. Which goes on. So that's where I sort of said, you know, some of it we're aware of it, some of it we're not.
How do most people then deal with it? And we just looking at the time as well. Yeah, we have a break at 11:30. But anyway.
Well, I think there are different ways or different areas to look at in terms of creating a bit of an action plan. So you've got nutrition. So so I just said about the hormones, and they can become out of balance, particularly if we eat foods which cause a lot of insulin to be released in our system. So the more high sugar foods, or what's known as high glycemic foods. So those are foods, you can actually do a search on the internet for high glycemic foods, and you'll find a long list. And you can, if you were to predominantly look to eat low and medium glycemic foods, that would help to regulate your insulin levels, which will help to have better hormonal balance. It will help, and that will impact your adrenals, and it will obviously help impact your shape, and plus your energy. So that will help create more balance, and particularly with the hormonal side. I'm a big believer in taking good quality food supplements. And there are two in particular which I think are really, really important. I take them myself. And I can notice a difference if I have a break for a while. And I don't always say that about many supplements I take. One is vitamin B5, which is pantothenic acid. It's a B vitamin, and it it very specifically helps to support your adrenal system. So that's our fight or flight response that's going off in the body. And that was our bodies, were designed thousands of years ago for this fight or flight response to happen if we had to, run away from a tiger or lion that was chasing us back in, Neanderthal times. And our bodies have not evolved to, catch up with modern life. And what happens is we can find our bodies can be in this constant fight or flight response. And it's only supposed to be active for 10 minutes or so, for a short period of time. And what it does is it stops blood flow going to what it considers non-essential functions in the body, such as our digestion and reproduction. But that if we're constantly in this state of fight or flight, that can lead to sort of digestive and gut health problems, again, which can impact our immune system. So that you can see how there's quite a knock-on effect. So if we can, this vitamin B5 can really, really help support that side of things. Also, a herb called Ashwagandha. It's a herb from an Indian tree. Again, very similar effects, but it's known to have anti-anxiety effects. It can help reduce cortisol response in the body. Really good to support insomnia and also, mood or, even depression. So I think they're really, really important. And something that I'm really passionate about also is therapeutic grade essential oils, because they have therapeutic compounds or active compounds in them, which can help support your immune system. They can help to reduce stress. They can act as, if I talk even just lavender, it can work to calm your mind. It can help to, send you off to sleep. But even during the daytime, if it's diffused, you breathe in these active compounds. It can actually help to sort of calm the chatter in the mind. Our minds can kind of race, and sometimes it's almost like it won't stop. So something like lavender can really help to impact that. So I think it's being careful on, or being specific on what we do with our nutrition, with supplements. As I say, these remarkable essential oils, which are therapeutic grade. So please do make sure you get super good quality, because otherwise you actually clog your system with synthetic oils, which is obviously not good. We've been talking about clogging. And then I really believe that applying some form of meditation, relaxation, that will help your mind to relax as well as your body. Now, whether that's yoga, whether it's listening to meditations, that side of things, or even doing something that will calm your mind that you love to do, such as, I don't know, painting, or even going for a walk. So exercise is also going to have play a big role in help reducing stress. And it's also, strangely enough, exercise, if it's done in a way that you don't get overtired, will give you more energy. It gets those endorphins going, it gets those kind of feel-good emotions kicking off in the body. But I think, I think it's about creating some balance, finding things that you love to do, not depriving yourself, but creating a little bit of discipline and balance, which will ultimately, it makes you feel better. And I think when you notice the improvements and an impact that what you're doing has, it makes you want to do more. And I think if you recognize your successes, take pressure off yourself, give yourself, rather than a hard time, give yourself a good time, give yourself a pat on the back for the good things you're doing, and put things into perspective.
Okay, that's brilliant. We literally have about 20 seconds to go. Thank you for that valuable information. We'll come back and round off. We will come back and round off this chat, because I want to look at how important it is, the things you love, and to be with the people that you love, because that equally has a great impact on the mind as well as the body. So inshallah, we'll see you after the commercial break. Keep it locked, and come back to if you're going to keep it locked, you're going to stay with Radio Ramadan on 87.9 FM with Farah, of course, and my guest, Alex and Marissa Kira. Jazakallah khair, and we'll see you shortly. Assalamu alaikum. wabarakatuh, and welcome back to Radio Ramadan on 87.9 FM with your host this morning, Farah. And I've been speaking to Alex Weera Sakira, who is a holistic, she's a nutritionist, she's trained as a psychotherapist, and she generally helps people with well-being, don't you, Alex? And we've been talking about health and well-being. You do indeed. And thank you so much for coming on and talking to us about all things to do with the mind and the body and how it's important to take care of both. So one of the listeners was actually asking for some information about, the B5 that you were, vitamin B5 that you were speaking about, and the herbal supplement. And the best thing to do is that we are actually going to put that on our Facebook page as to how they can contact you, but they can contact you at alex@lifeforceliving.co.uk. That's alex@lifeforceliving.co.uk. So that you can contact Alex directly and she'll be able to help you with any questions that you have at all. Now, we've discussed mindset quite a lot this morning because of the huge impact that it has on the body and on our, on the way that we think, which again impacts how we feel. Now, something that you mentioned just as we were closing before the break, you said that it's very important to do the things for you to relax and to do the things that make you happy. So to do the things that you love, basically, whatever that might be. Would you expand on that a little bit more?
Yes, absolutely. I will just say, if I may, that if anyone does get in touch, I am super happy and I will be delighted to help anyone who gets in touch and point you in the right direction. So please do. And yeah, so if we are, okay, so my experience of doing the things that we love to do, what it does is it allows your body to relax. It allows your mind to relax. And when we do the things we enjoy, it actually allows us to go into what's known as the flow state. And that is a state where we are just, totally absorbed with what we're doing. Now, I would have a mentor, which I've done a lot of training with, through a very particular seminar. And again, through that, he's actually taken the flow state to another level with something. But when you pay attention to such a degree, it's almost like you kind of go through into another experience of living. It's like a heightened state of awareness. And that allows you, it can do all sorts of things, but it allows you to, it really activates all of your mind. So it's sort of whole mind thinking. You get your conscious and the unconscious become aligned into one. And it just gives you a completely different experience and way of being. You get to experience who you really are as a person. You get to experience much more of that natural energy, your life force that's inside. And when you do, it brings through what is naturally within us, what is innate, which is pure unconditional love. It is, unity. It is bliss. It is just this perfection that's inside of us. And that is the way to access it. So if we do the things that we love, we naturally go into a different place, almost into a different mode of being. And it's done because we relax our minds. If we can find something that causes our mind and our thinking to relax and stop, meditation is something that is great and is definitely a good practice, but I think it can be tricky for some people to feel that they have to sort of almost force their thinking to stop. And that isn't, that's not easy. It's more about, can you find something that you become absorbed with and you just go into, and because you're enjoying it so much, your thinking just stops on its own. So if you look at children, they're the best example because they haven't actually been conditioned or sort of told how to not do this. we all naturally do this when we're born and when we're as children, but it's sort of conditioning through society and school and parents, and as we grow up, we kind of have this knocked out of us because we're told we should behave or be a certain way and what have you. We lose that sort of spontaneity and that just natural sort of way of expressing ourselves that children have so beautifully. But when you'll see it with children, if they're watching TV, they're watching something and they're so locked on and absorbed by the TV, you could be calling their name and they won't hear you. And it's not that they're ignoring you, they just can't hear you because they're so absorbed. So it's, great artists would describe this, sports people would describe this, people who are athletes and acting at, high performance levels. But we all have the same ability because as human beings, that's how we are created. So if we can, as I say, find what you love to do, it doesn't matter what it is. If it's just going for a walk and connecting with nature, if it's, hanging out with your friends. I know it's tricky at the moment with the situation, that we're in, but if, get on the phone and speak to people, try not to hide away. I think if we even just interacting and, speaking with other people maybe about how we're feeling and just having fun, reminiscing about good times, will bring up great memories which will make you relax. It'll kind of take you into the good thinking. Sorry.
No, I'm just agreeing with you. Of course, it makes complete sense that, when you're doing things that you love to do, it's going to make you feel tons better about yourself. You're going to, and I also feel that you automatically sort of come into your own power as well. Especially what you said about the mind, the two minds, the unconscious and the conscious aligning. It makes perfect sense. So thank you so much for that quite profound and comprehensive answer. And as I said earlier, if anybody wants any further information, do contact Alex.
Please do.
The information that I gave out earlier.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Farah.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for your time and your energy. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Our next guest is Barbara Wilson, who is a creative. She's a natural born singer. She has a flair for many different things, acting, and whose journey of self-discovery not only unveiled her ability as an artist at the age of 50, but also led her to start her own business in health and wellness. Now, earlier on, Barbara, we've been speaking about how important it is to have the right mindset. In fact, it's crucial to creating good well-being, both physical and mental. Now, you strike me as someone who is exceptionally upbeat. And as far as I'm aware, there isn't anything that you can't set your mind to. Have you always been like this?
Hello, Farah, and thank you so much for inviting me here. It's an absolute pleasure. And no, it wasn't always like this, I can say. So if I'll just give you a snippet of a picture. I'm from a Caribbean background and from a family of 8 and brought up really very strictly. Those were the days when we would get a slap. We would get, really a scream and shouted at. And I realized that affected me in a way as a child where I would not speak up for myself. I would be very quiet and in my thoughts. And this actually, as I got older, I saw how it stopped me. Like when I was in business, speaking up in meetings or actually being myself and really just saying what I wanted to say. Instead, I would say what I felt people wanted to hear. And because every time I did speak up as a child, the shouting and the telling off, I had it mean that whatever I had to say was not important, and I couldn't speak my mind, because that then something would happen that was negative. So, as I grew up, there was something in me that really, I had a sense that, there was more to me than this. I really did have a sense. I remember saying to my mum, it's like, how can I be more? I did say to her, I see people running around doing things, but surely as we're called human beings, there's more to be. And so I started exploring this as I grew older. Because I felt the constraints of not being able to speak my mind and not being who I wanted to be. There's a lot of energy that goes into that. And I spent money and time looking into how I could be more. And so I discovered how to train a way of using my mind, of training myself, very practical way of training myself and training my mind, because I saw that the way that you think actually has a big impact on your life, on who you are, the actions you take in your life. And I could see that. And I could see that the actions I was taking and who I was being was not inside of me, was not who I wanted to be. There was a disunity within myself before all this, before discovering more of me. And when I did, the difference that I experienced in my life, my goodness, it was very, very profound and very energizing. I could say that actually, because I realized my energy was going into thoughts, negative thoughts, and which were making me unhappy. And when I realized that, when I saw, as Alex spoke about, there's like a heightened state of awareness. And that's something that I experience now every single day. And this brings a joy in life. I practice relaxing my mind. I practice that on a daily basis and a moment-to-moment basis. That's so important, because the thoughts that you are thinking on a moment-to-moment basis are very, they create your life. And I've learned on a practical level how to relax my mind to a point where Alex talked about the flow. And practically, there are things that I do. I mean, I love music. I listen to music, and that has me just feel a sense of joy that comes from within me, and it comes out of me. And painting, when I discovered that at 50, that was through relaxing my mind that I actually discovered that I had a talent that lay dormant in me for 50 years, which is something I never knew. So that's the more of me that I really wanted to find and discover, and it's a work in progress now even.
That's amazing, because I guess it's this knowing that we have. Everyone knows that. I guess people call it intuition. Some people refer to it as intuition, but it is kind of your sat nav, if you like, or your compass. And you had this knowing, even as a child, that there's more to me than just who I am now. And I guess your keenness to discover that eventually led to you finding that. You found that you have this quality. You love music. You love art. And I guess Is that, well, rather than guessing, I'd rather ask you actually, is that how you manage? From the way you're talking, it would seem that you don't really have much stress in your life, but if you do, you're exceptionally good at managing it.
Yes,
and
most
is that
definitely.
how?
Yes. So I do the things that I love and I enjoy, and which, like music and even reading, all those things that I love, I make time for in my life. And I'm not saying it is perfect and I don't get reacted by things. You see, because it is a process and a growth, there are times when I do. But because I have trained myself, I spent money on myself, and I know now how to cope with the stress. And I know when I'm in a reaction, and I don't want to be that, because I see that that is not who I am. And in that moment, when I might get a bit angry or frustrated with someone, I know in my mind, I don't want to be that for anybody in this world. So I will use what I have learned to actually to relax myself, to relax my mind, to so that I can be the best I can be for whoever I'm in a conversation with. I promised myself, I made a choice that I would be love and unity, and to anyone I spoke to. Okay, so it's really, it's not easier. Okay, let me rephrase that. There is something innate within us that really loves everything and everybody in this world, that is love, right? And when you connect with that, you talk about intuition, and that definitely is that thing. That is part of it. That is its messages to you, that intuition. It's speaking to you. It's, you know, it's calling to you. And when you listen to that intuition, and if you have intuition about doing something or saying something, just do it, just say it, just be that, because it is what it wants you to be. So when I chose that, to be that for people, to be that love, and to not judge, it was through that training that I realized I couldn't do it by myself, I suppose you could say. That heightened state of awareness, you actually get to see that there is more to you than the thoughts you have about yourself. And if you listen to that intuition, you can't go wrong. And it does lead you to not judging people. And when you're with someone and you can be with them wholly and speak with them and not judge them, it actually gives them the space, the wherewithal. There's something happens, because I know communication is not just on a speaking level. There's an energy. Something's happening underneath all that. And when you're communicating with people, it's like your energy is going out to them.
We only have
if your energy is love,
left.
Oh, hey.
Barbara, thank you so much. No, that's fantastic. That's so fantastic. Thank you so much. Basically, Barbara has attended a training that's enabled her to, come from where she's coming from. And there'll be more information on the Facebook as to how to sort of contact her and to find out what this training is that she did. Thank you so much, Barbara and Alex. Where is Akira? It's been a pleasure having you. Jazakallah khair for all of you listening to Radio Ramadan on 87.9 FM, and myself, the host this morning. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah.